We start at 4 o'clock with students at a high school in Boulder that had to be evacuated at the end of their school day today. Now, Boulder Valley Schools says it all stemmed from some police activity near New Vista High School off 20th and Baseline in Boulder. It's not far from the CU campus. Police were executing a search warrant across the street, and officers say they gave the district a heads up about their plans and have asked to have that school evacuated.
The school put out about 250 kids onto buses. In the last hour, they got everybody off the campus. They bused the kids to a spot where parents could pick them up off Arapahoe Road at the Boulder Valley Schools Education Center. Police say they arrested the wanted suspects, but they haven't said anything else about what that warrant was for. We turn now to Denver, and it's been a day now since Denver Police Chief Paul Pazin abruptly announced his retirement. Well, today, the mayor of Denver, Michael Hancock, formally introduced his replacement, his nominee anyway. It's Ron Thomas, a lifelong Denver resident and a 33-year veteran of DPD. His most recent assignment was the deputy's chief of patrol. 9 News crime and justice reporter Matt Jablow was at the news conference today where Thomas was introduced, and rather reintroduced. You know him well because he meets a lot with the press.
That's right, Kim and Tom. And Chief Thomas was very upfront today about the challenges he's facing now. He specifically mentioned the city's increase in crime, the shortage of police officers, and the high level of distrust among some Denver residents. During the news conference this afternoon, Thomas repeatedly emphasized the importance of rebuilding the department's relationship with the community, which has suffered greatly since the police department's response to the George Floyd demonstrations 2 years ago. Before becoming chief of patrol in 2018, Thomas was commander of the department's Internal Affairs Division. He has also been the commander of 2 police districts. He said today that he's honored to have been nominated to lead the department, though he's well aware that he will have his work cut out for him.
Response times are up. I understand that call hold times are up. At the same time, I understand that our staffing is down. I understand that community trust is also at a low point, and I'm committed to fixing those things. We need to fix those things, and those things are going to be addressed. I can promise you that.
Thomas still has to be confirmed by Denver City Council. He said today that he has already assumed day-to-day management of the department. Kim and Tom.
It still does seem very sudden, though, Matt, as far as the reasons that Paul Pazin suddenly did decide to step down. It seems a bit murky, and there's some people thinking that maybe his resignation had been asked for by the mayor.
That question is certainly out there, Tom, especially after today when the mayor conceded that he only had 48 hours notice from Pazin about his retirement. But I asked the mayor point blank if he had asked for Paul Pazin's resignation, and he said flat out no.
All right, Matt, thanks. I want to check in with Kathy because we're taking a look outside at some blue skies. Nice day today as we kick off September. Beautiful picture at the campus there, and Kathy's with us. And these are mild days. We get to this early part of September, and boy, it's sometimes the best part of the year in Colorado.
It absolutely is. And it's not entirely quiet. I know if you look up in the Greeley area, it looks blue skies, look like things are completely calm, but we're actually tracking isolated thunderstorms over the higher terrain right now. Now, if we go outside, you'll see that Denver is dry, but there are some clouds off to the north and west. No shower activity on the I-70 corridor. Temperatures back in the 90s today. This is a trend that will continue through Friday and into the upcoming holiday weekend. Now, because humidity values are coming down, elevated fire danger is something we'll be talking about over the holiday weekend as well. Winds are light out of the north, but due to the lack of moisture, and we're also seeing these light steering winds out of the north, the storms that are crossing the Continental Divide are high based, meaning it's wind and lightning and not the rain that we need, and very isolated in nature. And so in Denver, there may be a few passing clouds tonight. We do stay dry and warm. Temperatures in the low 90s now will drop into the mid 80s around sunset. Coming up in Maine weather, we'll break down the holiday weekend forecast and our next chance for rain.
All right, Kathy, thanks. Well, overnight, Russell Wilson signed a contract extension, the third most lucrative in the National Football League, a 5-year extension worth $245 million. Only Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have bigger deals. While there is a guarantee of $165 million, on average, Russ is going to be pulling down about $49 million a year. That's the average, and it only trails Aaron Rodgers, who makes about $50 million a year. Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes, all quarterbacks, of course, rounding out the top 5, making between $45 and $46 million each. So just last hour at a press conference, Russell and the Broncos brass were talking about the new deal. Some members of the family even put on helmets. They talked about what this deal means for the quarterback and the franchise going forward.
The reason why I wanted to be here for so long because I trust you two guys up on the stage with me. I believe this is a marriage, and you want to be here for a long time. And you know, my goal is to be able to finish my career here. As I mentioned at the very beginning, this team is unique. It's dedicated to the craft. We have an amazing journey ahead of us, and I can't wait for it.
And I believe this deal is a win-win for everyone, and this allows us to continue building and maintaining a championship roster.
So that just wrapped up, and our Broncos insider Mike Kliss was there. He joins us now live. Mike, of course, we're talking about a tremendous amount of money at the very top of the NFL pay scale, yet many people say this is also a good deal for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it's hard to believe when you look at some of those numbers, a $50 million signing bonus, and say that Russ left some money on the table. And he did. You know, he's had 2 previous extensions with Seattle, and both times he was the highest paid NFL player. This time he didn't take that. Some people thought he could have got more guarantee, like Deshaun Watson got. His full contract was guaranteed in Cleveland, and he could have held out for a higher average than Aaron Rodgers, especially when he kind of had the Broncos over the barrel with all the draft picks that they gave up, 2 first rounds, 2 second rounds. But Russell Wilson didn't push for that, and he kind of said it's about winning championships, and by leaving a little money on the table, believe it or not, maybe that'll help them get another player or 2 down the road that'll push them toward that Super Bowl.
Yeah, everyone had a feeling, or at least you seemed to know, that this deal was going to get done. Would have been a surprise if it didn't. But the way it got done was interesting. When you talk about the new ownership, George Paton, Russell Wilson, and his agent, everything kept very quiet right up until the announcement today, Mike.
Yeah, there's so much going on. First of all, what happened was they started talking at the league meetings, which were in late March in Florida, and then they were on pause because the Broncos were for sale. And you want a deal like this, you want the new owners to sign off on it. And so the Penner and the Waltons, they got on board. They bought the team. I think they reached an agreement in early June. They didn't get approved until early to mid-August. So then things really started heating up after the Penner and Waltons were approved for $4.65 billion. What's another $2.296 billion to get the deal done? Right. So their total investment here is about $5 billion. And what's interesting, I think, and where the ownership came in play here, Tom, is that it was a $50 million signing bonus, which is, for the most part, cash up front. And that's where the Waltons come in with their deep pockets.
So it's money, it's fame, it's all of those things. What does it mean to the football team? Does this send anything through the locker room at all? I think everybody expected Russell to get his deal. Yes, they did. I think the message it sends is that they're all in. They're fully committed. You know, ownership is going to do what it takes. It's they made him one of the highest paid players in the game, Russell Wilson. They traded a lot to get him. After where this team has been the last 5-6 years, you know, this 6-year playoff drought, Tom, is the second longest in football. The Detroit Lions have been in the playoffs more recently than the Denver Broncos. Jacksonville has too. So they're all hungry to get to the playoffs. Give Russell whatever he wants as long as he gets the team to the promised land. That's the vibe inside the locker room. Well, we'll talk about this a lot more coming up at 5 o'clock. Just the hope is, I think, that they left some money on the table for this year's edition of Sideline Stories with Jim Sacamano. And the price is I did hear at the last minute that was a glitch that had to be worked out. So I'm sure you'll get yours, Tom. Yeah, well, we'll see how that works out. Mike, we'll see you at 5. Thanks.
No immediate ruling today after the Justice Department and former President Trump's lawyers made their arguments in a Florida courtroom over the appointment of a special master.
Now, the lawyers for the former president and the DOJ facing off in that federal courtroom today for the first time since the FBI agents executed that search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. And last week, a magistrate judge ordered a heavily redacted release of that affidavit. It did show that investigators had found that trove of highly classified documents. The lawyers for Trump argued the judge should appoint the special master to review all the evidence seized. The DOJ attorneys arguing such an appointment simply slows down an urgent investigation. Today, though, the judge did not rule on the request, saying instead that she would issue a written ruling at a later date.
A teenager in Jacksonville, North Carolina is in custody after a deadly stabbing at a high school. It happened about 7 a.m. this morning. The city's police chief said a fight broke out between students inside the school's main entrance that led to the stabbing. He said a student resource officer responded and was able to take the attacker into custody within seconds. According to the police chief, the victim was given medical aid at the scene but died. Another student and a teacher were injured and taken to the hospital for treatment. Students were sent home and school has been canceled until Tuesday after the Labor Day holiday. The shocking increase in assaults in our military. We're breaking down the numbers by branch coming up.
Also, life expectancy in the United States taking another dip, and the minority groups are being hit the hardest.
And we're taking another look outside on this September 1 right now. And we have a special visitor in the studio coming up right after weather.